My question is, why did you leave Gojek ketika mereka IPO?
Okay, that's a good question.
Ternyata bukan diproduksi oleh Indonesia beberapa brand motor listrik di Indonesia.
Brand sekarang banyak, merek sekarang banyak, tapi banyak juga yang memang bisnis modelnya adalah
Ini lahir tahun 2022, betul. Maka baru keluar tahun lalu.
baru keluar 3 bulan yang lalu.
What the hell did you guys do for the past 3 years gitu?
Good question. We get asked that a lot.
What's the biggest hiccup right now?
Kita masih mesti naikin rate production kita di pabrik.
Oh, because there's too many orders with it.
Yeah, we have more orders than what we can currently make.
Really? That must feel so effing good.
No. India's EV penetrationnya a few years ahead of us. Udah 25% dari penjualan motor baru udah listrik. Kita tahun kemarin 1%.
Wow. Trump's tariff. How has it changed your business plan in the next few years?
Kalau ngomongin efek tarif, itu pasti ada 2 sisi ya. Pertama dari
Dukungan negara ini terhadap two-wheeler EVs. Seperti apa?
Welcome to the Friday Podcast, a melting pot of all ideas and stories. Whether it's the resilience behind a punchline, the humanity behind a policy, or the spark that fuels a masterpiece. In our studio, we pull back the curtain and explore the other side of every story. Because here at the Friday Podcast, we talk, you listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Friday Podcast. This is your host, Iyas Lawrence. Kalau di dunia aktor, trennya adalah mantan anak boyband menjadi para aktor. Kalau di dunia startup, mantan anak Gojek jadi para founder.
bener juga.
Is this the classic story of how Gojek employee, an ex-Gojek employee, has his own startup? I guess we'll find out. Dito, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, there's always a different story. Tapi I gotta tell you the story. I recently watched a movie. It's called Upstream.
I've heard of this.
Dan ini adalah cerita tentang seseorang yang that delivers food in China, kesusah payahannya untuk menjaga kehidupannya dan keluarganya gitu.
Yeah.
Dulu dia kerja kantoran and he works for that now, just to put food on the table. It's really good. It's heartwarming. It's one of the best movies I've watched so far. Dan sadly, when I watched this, you're my first ex-Gojek person to ask. Karena sebelum-sebelumnya I talked to Ala, I talked to a few. I didn't watch this movie yet. Gitu.
Right.
I've always wondered, how did it feel for you to be a part of that life-changing situation? I don't know. I mean, that's probably my first question for you. Because
Right.
I want to know from a sentimental point of view. Seeing that, is that a culture that you miss from Gojek, atau was it always there gitu?
It was a life-changing experience. I'm very lucky to have gone through it.
Yeah.
I feel very lucky to have joined Gojek at the time I did. Because I joined in 2015
Yeah.
when they were still based out of a house. So first day we showed up, no one knew we were coming.
Rumah ya?
Rumah gitu di Jalan Ciasem. Enggak, ini sebelum pindah ke Kemang Selatan.
Got it.
Yeah, this was near Pasar Santa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that road. Yeah, got it. Tiasem.
Yeah. So we showed up. We asked, kita ruangannya di mana? Oh, di sini nih. Ruangannya isinya sampah karena anak-anak Gomar tuh habis foto-foto SKU the previous day.
Okay.
Jadi first day kita bersihin sampah. Terus mejanya mana? Ini masih di kotak, dibikin aja. So we spent our first day making our own tables and chairs.
Berarti going from that start, melihat Gojek yang bisa mengubah hidup orang lain gitu. Mau itu dari customer atau para driver. Man, that must feel good.
It was crazy. I think having front row seats to everything that happened between 2015 when I joined and 2022 when I left was such a privilege, man. Because I think it's very rare that everything just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
It was never a given, right? It was a lot of perjuangan banget lah. Kita dulu I was handling the bid engine, so the part of the system that matches drivers with customers. If you were using Gojek in 2016, you probably had an experience of not getting a driver, especially when it rains.
Yeah.
So I was trying to fix that.
Oh.
Susah banget, bro. Because we have a lot of drivers, we had a lot of customers. The system kept going down every 4 p.m. because that's when everyone orders their ride home.
Oh.
And during bulan puasa lebih parah lagi karena 4 p.m. people also order GoFood buat buka.
Betul.
Yeah.
Betul.
Yeah.
Is it true bahwa GoFood pertama lo atau order pertama lo adalah ice cream untuk nge-celebrate the success waktu itu, aplikasi itu muncul?
Nah, I wasn't there when they made the first GoFood order,
Okay.
but I was there when we made the first instant delivery order through Tokopedia. And we did order ice cream.
Really?
Yes.
That's the story.
Ya, karena before that, delivery-nya nggak cukup cepat untuk pesan ice cream di Tokopedia.
So that's how you celebrate small wins.
Exactly.
Like Joe Biden, I guess, but let's not get to that yet. Dito, I want to talk about, before we talk about Maka and your success right now and what you do, let's talk about growing up. What was it like? I know Barudak Bandung, cuman apakah dari lahir atau gimana?
Jadi, I actually don't have family in Bandung.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to Bandung for high school. Stayed there for 7 years, so through high school and college. That's where I met my co-founder. I went to Bandung simply because I wanted more freedom. That's what I told my mom.
You got that privilege because you're the only child atau the first atau
The first.
the first,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. I told my mom I wanted to go to ITB. Terus,
who doesn't?
ya kalau masuk SMA ini semuanya masuk ITB. Jadi aku ke Bandung ya. And then my mom let me,
Yeah.
which is very rare.
Yeah.
But before that, so my family is actually here in Jakarta. My dad used to work for Pertamina.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's a government employee,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah.
And we moved back to Indonesia in 2002. Before that, we were actually in the US for 5 years.
I see.
Yeah, because my dad was doing his PhD.
So how old were you when you were in the US?
That was between first grade to fifth grade.
Wow. So your early stages in life was actually in the US.
Yeah.
How was it like growing up in the US?
The US in the 90s was pretty amazing, actually.
I cannot imagine sih. Maksudnya kalau di sini kan kebayang gitu. Sore-sore makan sop di luar, disuapin gitu kayak. I can't imagine the US kayak. What was that like specifically?
Right.
Di mana berarti waktu itu?
The Colorado.
Colorado. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Colorado, beautiful nature.
Yeah.
We lived in a small college town di tengah-tengah pegunungan gitu.
Yeah, it was
This was before 9/11. Jadi orang-orangnya semuanya baik.
Yeah.
Ya, penasaran, oh Indonesia kayak gimana?
And when it snows, it's amazing in Colorado kan?
It was very cold.
Yeah.
But yeah. So liburnya kalau saljunya kebanyakan.
Yeah,
gitu.
yeah.
Yeah, but what was really cool was being there when the internet first started becoming a thing. Because we basically lived on campus. Jadi awal-awal ada internet, I would go to the campus center and just, start Googling. It wasn't Google at the time. It was, sebelum Google tuh ada AOL, ada Alta Vista. There were a lot of search engines.
In fact, dulu I used Yahoo more than Google.
Yes,
Yeah, kan?
exactly.
It was always Yahoo. I mean, the first thing was Yahoo. But was that your first introduction to technology?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, so you took teknik di Bandung.
Yeah, I studied industrial engineering.
Okay, but you didn't graduate and then work for.
Nope.
You went to Mackenzie.
Yeah. As most lulusan teknik do,
Yeah.
gitu kan. Jarang sih lulusan teknik yang actually kerja di bidangnya ya sekarang tuh.
Is that a huge problem? Do you think?
I think in the long term it is. I think as a country we need to focus more on developing our manufacturing sector. That's part of why I started the company.
Yeah.
That's actually our vision at Maka. We want to drive. We want to be the spearhead of ujung tombak swasembada teknologi otomotif di Indonesia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remind me again, kenapa jurusan teknik tidak bekerja membangun sesuatu dari nol gitu? That's what they're trained for gitu.
Right.
Dan sedangkan kita punya kapasitas dan kapabilitas untuk melakukan itu gitu. We have the land untuk membangun sebuah pabrik. Kita punya otak-otak untuk mendesain sebuah itu. Kenapa itu tidak terjadi di sini?
Right. Jadi kita punya raw material banyak.
Betul.
Kita punya pasar yang gede.
Betul.
Kita punya orang-orang yang pinter.
betul.
Banyak banget yang pinter, banyak yang kuliahnya di luar, terus jadi kerja di luar, nggak balik lagi. Gitu kan. Karena di sini kerjaannya mungkin belum ada di bidang itu, especially in automotive R&D. I think more people need to take risks and just try making our own products. I think it's just not a very common thing right now, unfortunately. It's always easier to, basically bisnis model pedagang ya. Jadi kita beli barang dari luar, kita rebrand atau kita distribute aja di sini. Developing your own product takes conviction. Yeah. It takes a lot of upfront capital. It takes time. Not many people are willing to go through that. A lot of people called us crazy for trying to do what we're doing now.
Of course.
They still do.
But which is rational if you're actually not in Indonesia, sebetulnya kan?
Yeah.
It's a normal thing to do, sebetulnya kan? Karena
Right.
you have all the raw materials, as you said, you have all the abilities, then just do it, gitu.
Yeah.
So what I understand adalah ternyata kita tidak semampu itu untuk mengambil resiko.
Yes.
Itu berarti permasalahannya di situ kan untuk orang-orang.
In my view, itu salah satu blockernya.
Got it.
Dan mungkin we need more successful examples.
Yeah, that's right.
Ya, karena jujur menurut gua sih talentnya nggak kurang kok.
Yeah.
Orang Indonesia pinter-pinter. Dulu waktu kita awal di Gojek, it was really hard to find good software engineers in 2015. Now we export software engineers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of my friends from Gojek sekarang kerjanya di Europe, di mana? Karena, over the last 5 years, industrinya udah berkembang banget di sini, talentnya udah sangat
Dan
improve.
portfolio mereka dari Gojek juga udah luar biasa berarti kan?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you worked at McKinsey's. That's where you met Nadim.
That's where I met Nadim. Yes.
Yeah. And what did he say to you?
Actually, Nadim left McKinsey on the day I joined. Jadi we didn't really talk when we were at McKinsey.
Okay.
Yeah, but in my third year, he was looking to hire more ex-consultants to basically build new businesses
So
for
you
him.
were a consultant.
I was a consultant. That was my
Very
first
weird.
job. Right, yeah.
Okay. So
It's a great first job, though.
of course,
Teaches you a lot.
Of course, there was there like a secret handouts of hey, work for Gojek? What was that like? The offer.
Honestly, it was positioned as a very there was a lot of downside protection because I had a return offer from McKinsey.
Of course.
Yeah, so I was only supposed to go to Gojek for a year for my MBA story. Ya, jadi ya udah masuk Gojek. Ini kan menarik nih bikin bisnis dengan driver ojek. Nanti buat bikin SI MBA. Tapi I just ended up doing my MBA at Gojek.
Yeah, that's right. For 7 years.
For 7 years.
Okay, my question is, why did you leave Gojek ketika mereka IPO?
Okay, that's a good question. I think, so if you look at my cohort at Gojek, kita kan gue join 2015. Of all the people who were with me there in that year, at the time I left, a lot of them udah cabut untuk bikin startup mereka sendiri, masing-masing.
The good old classic story.
Exactly. Ya Gojek Mafia lah ya. Walaupun ya kita belum ada yang bisa segede Gojek.
Yeah.
It'll take time.
That's a dream. Yeah.
That's the dream. But at least we know what success looks like. Soalnya dulu kan we saw how Nadim and Kevin and Andre and the others were running the company. We were part of it. We know what it looks like when you reach viral growth. And we also felt like kayaknya ini mereka bisa. Terus ini within Gojek, all of us were doing a lot of new things we had never done before. And somehow it works, right? We're getting more users, we're getting more traction. Kalau Nadim bisa bikin ini, kenapa kita enggak?
Of course.
Ya kan? Especially because we have the experience of, we did a lot of trial and error juga lah di Gojek. So I think a lot of people from my batch, they ended up starting their own company by that line of thinking.
Yeah.
Gue actually lumayan yang bertahan paling lama sih.
Really?
Yeah. So by the time I left, kayaknya emang udah tinggal gue and a few other people from 2015.
Nadim wasn't even there.
Nadim wasn't even there.
Dia
I
udah
outlasted
dipanggil.
Nadim. Dia udah dipanggil.
Okay, before you answer the question, I want to ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
What was the farewell like when he was called?
it was pretty big.
Is it confidential atau you can tell the story?
No, we had an auditorium at the office.
Yeah, I know.
So everyone was at the office, and then everyone knew about it already.
When did you guys know about this? Like a month before atau?
Wow, I don't remember. I think it felt like it happened very quickly.
Okay.
I think as part of the leadership team, I probably knew a bit earlier. But jadi semuanya masuk auditorium. Terus Nadim kan very good at giving speeches. Jadi dia mau cabut aja, kita semua sangat semangat mendukung dia gitu.
So there's no classic like giving out gifts atau apa gitu. Was there Jeko there to say goodbye?
Paket resign. No, not really. I think
it was just a good, send off gitu waktu itu.
Yeah, it was a good send off.
Okay.
We all took photos.
Okay. So again, if you want to answer my question, but why did you leave at the point where Gojek went to IPO?
Right. So I think I saw a lot of my batchmates leaving to start their own companies. And the reason I joined Gojek from the beginning, at least what I told Nadim, was gue pingin belajar bikin bisnis gue sendiri. Because one day I want to start my own business.
Okay.
That was always that was his pitch to me as well. So I joined Gojek untuk bikin produk yang namanya GoBox. Itu my first product di Gojek.
Wow.
Ya, yang truck.
I still use it. Yeah.
Oh ya?
Yeah.
Ah, thank you.
What did I move? Oh, motor gue mogok. That's what I used it. Anyway.
That's exactly the use case. Motor mogok, pindahan.
Yeah.
Ya kan, jadi the pitch was build this product, you get to own, you get to run your own P&L, hire your own team, tapi nggak usah pikirin funding. Seru banget kan?
Yeah. Gojek dong.
Yeah, exactly. Which is more interesting than an MBA.
Yeah.
Terus, and I tried that. I figured, actually bisa nih jadi produknya.
Tell us the story. You called your friend berarti kan?
Yes.
Which is your partner right now kan?
Exactly.
Yeah. Where was he working at?
He was working at Schlumberger, which is an oil and gas services company. So he was in Balikpapan, working on a rig.
So when you were told that you can build your own company, what did you do?
So Nadim told me, hire anyone you want. And I was like, there's this guy who was my probably my closest friend in high school.
Yeah.
Kayaknya harga minyak lagi turun deh. Coba deh gue telepon. Terus ya udah dia mau tuh balik ke Jakarta.
Kerja buat GoBox.
Buat GoBox. So my team at Maka, the first few people are actually my GoBox team.
Wow.
Yeah, so we stuck together since 2015.
That's nice. That's solid. Why? Why did you leave when it was IPO? That was the right time for you, atau?
It felt like the right time because I was looking for I wanted to start my own thing, but I didn't know what.
Yeah.
And a year before the IPO, I started looking at Gojek's electric vehicle program. So
Is there?
Yeah.
Is there one?
We started looking into it.
Okay.
Soalnya dulu itu, jadi you mentioned upstream, right?
Yeah.
The main issue for drivers is how do they maximize their take-home pay?
Got it.
Ya kan? And I think when we first started in 2015, driver income was very good, right? And then we had a lot of competition, so the market kind of drove that down. And we kept trying to figure out how can we help these drivers, right? Karena the income ketekan terus karena makin banyak drivernya. So we were looking at how we can help them reduce their costs. Costnya Gojek driver tuh paling ada 3 yang paling besar. Pertama bensin, kedua makanan, ketiga pulsa. Makanan sama pulsa Gojek bisa bantu. Because we had GoFood merchants bisa bantuin, ada deal sama provider telekomunikasi.
Bensin lo nggak bisa bantu.
Bensin kita nggak bisa ngapa-ngapain, but they spend the most money on bensin. Makanya waktu itu kita mikir kalau emang if everything is gonna be electric eventually, kayaknya Gojek should play a role deh. Karena kan kita banyak banget nih captive driversnya. So we started testing out all of the products available at the time in the market. Jadi ada motor listrik yang bermacam-macam merek lah. Tapi belum sebanyak sekarang ya. Ya, kita cobain ke driver. Tapi feedback dari driver kebanyakan ya memang lebih hemat sih. Tapi motornya kurang bisa menggantikan motor bensin yang mereka pakai buat narik.
Karena kecepatannya kah atau?
Satu, baterainya terlalu cepat habis. That was the main issue.
Cepat habis tuh berapa kilo berarti kalau di motor?
Kalau di
pada
motor,
saat itu berarti,
pada saat itu kebanyakan motornya range-nya 40-60 kilo lah sekali cas. It's not enough for a Gojek driver. Gojek driver yang full time tuh bisa lebih dari 100 kilo per hari.
Iya.
gue pernah nyoba jadi driver satu hari. Wah, susah man. It's not an easy job.
Did you get a tip?
I did not get a tip. I did get dulu sempat diusir di Swoop waktu lagi nungguin order di depan Plaza Senayan. Ya, terus akhirnya
tough job.
Ya, wah susah nih, udah gue pulang terus gue pesen gue massage.
Pada saat itu masih ada.
Pada saat itu masih ada.
Oke.
Ya, jadi satu soal baterai terlalu cepat habis. Kedua, driving experience-nya nggak sama kayak motor bensin. Jadi rasanya agak kagok ketika nyelap-nyelip, atau ketika bawa penumpang, atau ketika macet di tanjakan.
Macet tuh.
Kita kan lagi di Kemang nih. Kalau mau keluar dari Kemang ke Antasari, tahu nggak tanjakan yang di Puri Sakti itu?
Iya.
Nah, itu kalau udah macet,
Betul.
berhenti kan.
Benar.
Nah, dulu banyak motor listrik tuh kalau di situ kita ngerem, pas mau digas lagi dia tuh mundur dikit dulu, terus loncat.
Ngeri. Iya.
Ya, kadang-kadang driver malah ujungnya nyuruh customer turun dulu deh. Tapi kan itu bad experience ya buat customer.
Betul.
Gitu. Jadi karena these drivers are on the bike all day.
What year was this review?
This was 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was their verdict of EV two-wheelers.
Yeah, the state of EVs in that year.
Okay.
Gitu kan. Jadi terus other issues lah kayak joknya terlalu pendek atau bagasinya kecil, nggak bisa bawa helm tambahan. So that's when we started thinking, you know what? I think none of these existing products work. Mungkin use case di Indonesia memang agak berbeda. So a lot of the two-wheeler EV products sebenarnya datangnya dari China.
Yeah, tell us about that. That's interesting actually. Ternyata bukan diproduksi oleh Indonesia beberapa brand motor di Indonesia ya. Motor listrik di Indonesia.
Brand sekarang banyak, merek sekarang banyak, tapi banyak juga yang memang bisnis modelnya adalah ngambil barang dari luar, dari China, terus di Indonesia di rebrand, biasanya nanti di assemble dulu, jadi dia impornya dalam bentuk kebongkar.
buat konten, buat apa gitu bisa kan?
Buat local content, exactly. Ya, jadi dia import namanya completely knockdown kit.
This is like a kit car. So if you want to buy a Porsche and your money's only what $3,000, then get a kit car, assemble it here, put your logo, and that's it, gitu kan?
Exactly.
So that's basically which is a brilliant business model.
Absolutely.
However, here's the funny part: in China, it's not made for two people.
Yes. In China, the way they use the bikes is completely different.
But imagine doing that. Kayak, let's assemble these kits from China. Okay, when they come, single seaters gitu, kayak that's weird.
Bener, muat aja sih dua orang kalau dipaksa.
Betul.
Kayak gue kan udah nyoba semua motor ya, semua motor listrik waktu itu. Kalau gue sama istri gue yang naik ya oke lah. Gitu. Tapi kalau kita berdua kayaknya agak
terlalu intim.
Agak terlalu intim, agak berat juga gitu kan.
Iya. Oke, maka that answers the question. Makanya beberapa kali kita menggunakan motor listrik agak tidak nyaman duduknya ya.
Ya.
Karena tuh motornya harusnya dibuat di Cina.
Benar.
Dan regulasi di Cina adalah tidak boleh ada penumpang di kendaraan roda 2, betul?
Sebenarnya nggak boleh ada penumpang, speednya nggak boleh lebih dari 45 km per jam, dan mereka punya jalur sendiri buat roda 2. Jadi misah sama mobil. Artinya kita nggak harus nyelip-nyelip nyusul-nyusul mobil. Ya. Dan kalau di Cina, mereka jarak tempuh perharinya nggak seperti di Indonesia.
Ya.
Mereka public transportnya udah strong banget. Jadi motor ini hanya untuk first and last mile aja. Mereka pergi ke dan dari stasiun MRT lah istilahnya. Betul. Gitu. Sedangkan di sini kan beda banget. Jadi kalau ngambil spek plek-plekan dari Cina dibawa ke sini, itu kurang cocok lah dipakai di jalanan Indonesia.
Tapi kalau model kit gitu, apakah ketika datang ke sini boleh kita modifikasi?
Boleh aja. Jadi the market kan udah lumayan banyak berubah ya dari sejak kita jalanin pilot-pilot ini di tahun 2021. It's evolved in a direction where more and more of the Chinese companies are also trying to make products yang lebih suitable buat Indonesia.
Of course.
Ya, jadi
they see that opportunity.
They see that opportunity. Tapi what they typically do adalah mereka ngambil istilahnya platform yang udah ada. Jadi chassis-nya ngambil yang udah ada di market biar nggak harus invest bikin toolingnya lagi. Terus mereka modif, misalnya dikasih baterai lebih besar, dikasih dinamo yang lebih besar,
jok lebih luas,
benar. Dan kita banyak nyoba motor yang seperti ini juga. The thing is, karena memang itu kan R&D-nya berarti di sana.
Yeah.
And the team that did the R&D, mereka nggak kebayangkan cara kita pakai motor di sini. So in our experience, there's always something a bit off. Gitu. Misalnya posisi kakinya kayak jongkok. Ya itu lama-lama pegel gitu. Kan apalagi belok-belok agak susah.
Yeah.
Atau center of gravity-nya terlalu tinggi. Jadi kalau buat nyelap-nyelip itu rasanya agak nggak nyaman.
Okay.
Kalau ngegas dia nyentak dan nggak bisa digas sambil ngerem.
Oh iya.
Ya, jadi kalau direm dia nggak cut off kan. Sedangkan orang Indonesia kita bawa motor selalu ngegas sambil ngerem kan. Dikit-dikit ngerem karena itu cara ngestabilin motornya kalau lewat gang. Gitu.
Wow, that's interesting. So dengan kerumitan itu, you decided to overcomplicate yourself.
Exactly. Benar.
Which is making your own brand.
Yep.
Maka.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how it worked until I did my research about EV vehicles and then making it and so on. Then you validated it ketika lo bilang tadi just before we recorded bahwa it took you 2 years to just do R&D.
Yep.
Dan R&D itu bukan berarti jadi pasang gas gitu. It's not that. No. It's little changes. You have to do a whole lot of changes gitu.
Yep.
So ini lahir tahun 2022, betul kan?
Betul.
Maka baru keluar tahun lalu.
Baru keluar 3 bulan yang lalu.
Baru keluar produknya 3 bulan lalu. What the hell did you guys do for the past 3 years gitu?
Good question. We get asked that a lot.
And is it normal for me to ask that?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, 3 years is a long time for our R&D kan.
It's a long time, yeah.
What are those days gitu?
Right. Tapi memang even for bigger established auto companies who I will not name, development cycle mereka memang biasanya 3 tahun.
Oke, so it's normal kalau di dunia otomotif.
It's normal di dunia otomotif. Cuman biasanya kan perusahaan yang melakukan itu udah punya steady cash flow, udah punya pabrik, tim R&D-nya udah ada, peralatan udah ada semua. Yeah. Sedangkan kita, our first 6 months itu kerja dari meja makan rumah gua.
Really?
Ya sambil figuring out ini gimana ya caranya bikin motor.
So you weren't looking for investments?
When we started, we already had investors.
Okay.
So we were very lucky that way.
Job was done.
That job was partially done. Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, karena a lot of our investors knew me already from Gojek.
Yeah.
Makanya to answer your earlier question on why I left Gojek just before the IPO, it felt like the right time. Yeah. Karena we identified this problem. Kita udah nyoba banyak motor listrik dengan driver. Menurut kita ada opportunity nih di sini. Yeah. Dan market motor kan gede banget ya di Indonesia. Terus ada investor yang willing to take a bet on us to do this crazy thing of making our own bike from scratch, something that no one has ever done before in this country. So we're very grateful we had that opportunity.
What was the plan B?
Hey guys, sorry for interrupting the podcast. We have a special announcement. Kita sedang berkolaborasi dengan Avalanche, sebuah brand parfum, dan kita membuat 2 varian. Ada the host dan juga the interview room. Both smells really good, dan it represents the podcast itself. If you're a fan and if you're a friend, jangan lupa langsung beli. Link in the description. Now, let's get back to the podcast. Thank you.
What was your first plan, berarti, before electric vehicle?
Oh, there was no plan B.
Really?
We're all in.
Jadi it was always dari lo resign tuh lo tahu gitu.
Yeah, karena buat gua sih, so honestly, I'm actually a pretty risk averse person, which might not seem like it.
Oh.
Yeah, but I strongly believe that when it feels right, if it doesn't feel right, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? If it feels right, then just go. Right?
And it felt right from day one.
It felt right at the time. It felt right in 2022. For sure.
Until you sit down on your dinner table for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Thinking of what the hell should we do. It's not as easy as starting a branding company gitu. You just sit down, build a team, and then get it to work. It's actually making a product. Safety reasons.
Yep.
So 6 months in, you think of how the heck you could do it. What's the rest of the other 2.5 years?
Right. So 6 months, trying to figure out just how to approach the problem, validating some of our assumptions. we started out wanting to design quite a pretty different type of bike. So EVs, you have EVs that have swappable batteries. Ada yang pakai fixed battery kayak kita.
Yeah.
We initially started out wanting to do a swapping model, tapi kita for various reasons we thought it makes more sense to build a fixed battery model, tapi baterainya digedein.
Yeah.
But then the challenge is how do you fit such a big battery into the bike? Karena the problem with the two-wheeler is you just don't have a lot of space.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to figure out how to fit in a big battery, terus bagasinya juga gede,
Betul.
joknya juga panjang, tapi handlingnya enak supaya center of gravity-nya pas. Jadi challenge-nya di situ. Bikin konsepnya, jadi the first 6 months was figuring out that concept. And then once you have the concept, you need to figure out how to actually make the whole bike. Because a motorcycle is a complex technology product. Itu kan komponennya ada ribuan, supplier kita juga ada ratusan.
Betul.
Dan lebih dari 90% komponen di motor kita tuh desain kita sendiri. So they're make parts, not buy parts istilahnya.
Wow.
Gitu. Jadi obviously
Memperumit diri sendiri.
lumayan. Jadi obviously kita nggak bisa do all of that dengan waktu itu 4-5 orang from my dining table.
Of course.
Yeah, we had some help initially. So we wanted to learn from the best. So we had an engineering partner who helped us, helped show us the ropes. Mereka this was a company, and so we had partners in Austria and Germany buat
I
ngajarin
was just
kita.
gonna say, berarti Germany is the place to go for this.
Exactly.
Wow. But they don't build motorcycles sebetulnya kan?
They do, but not to
Not to Asian countries berarti.
not the Asian countries, but the fundamental process of how to make an automotive product sebenarnya sama.
Betul.
Nah, jadi ini milestones-nya. This
They
is
know
how.
best on how, the center of gravity should be this for big bikes because they're used to making big bikes anyway kan.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So first you need to figure out dari produk yang lo mau bikin attributes-nya apa aja.
Yeah.
Kayak kalau main Winning Eleven tuh ada jadi ketahuan umurnya nyebutnya masih Winning
Ngomongnya
Eleven. WE.
Yang 1004 lagi WE-nya.
Iya. Kan ada yang spider chart itu ya.
Iya. Gimana semuanya fit perfectly.
Ya, jadi what do you wanna trade off? Udah gitu, nanti konsepnya, cara lo validasinya gini, testingnya harus kayak gini, lo perlu hire tim yang seperti ini. Jadi kita istilahnya dapat blueprintnya lah. Habis itu kita mulai building a team.
Wow.
Jadi tim R&D kita semuanya orang Indonesia. Banyak yang pulang dari luar negeri.
This is amazing, yeah.
Yeah, so we have people who moved back from Germany, Japan, karena memang mereka penasaran banget, pingin dapat opportunity untuk develop produk otomotif dari nol.
Betul.
Ya, jadi mereka banyak experience di bidang itu, tapi belum pernah ada yang mencoba melakukan hal yang ya segila kita lah ya, which is ya udah bikin motor aja dari nol, desain sendiri, gitu.
Dan mereka juga assuming ketika mereka balik ke sini ya nggak ada yang mau bayar mereka untuk posisi mereka kan berarti.
Bener.
And you guys opened up that position. Gitu,
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
This is interesting. Berarti that's the start of Maka Motors gitu. How did it feel for you 3 months ago when it first came out berarti? IMS berarti kan?
No, we actually had kita ada event launching kita sendiri di Spark Senayan kemarin.
Di Spark,
Ya,
okay.
ada videonya di YouTube.
Okay, I'll check it out. Itu yang ada duta juga kan?
Ada. Ya, jadi kita latihannya lumayan banyak ya, karena we wanted to do it sort of kayak Apple keynote, tapi obviously ya style kita beda ya sama Apple, market juga beda. Tapi kita pingin fokus ke produknya, ya kan? Karena kita yang benar-benar desain produknya dari nol, jadi kita pingin fokus ngejelasin kenapa produk ini beda dari yang lain. Karena we know every little detail, karena we tested everything, we designed everything.
Itu memang kewajiban kan sebetulnya kalau mengeluarkan kendaraan.
Of course, tapi dibanding kalau misalnya kita ngambil desain yang existing, terus kita
yeah.
modif.
Lo nggak tahu lo harus ngomong apa nanti.
Exactly,
Gitu kan?
mungkin kita nggak tahu persisnya apa. Kayak misalnya hal sesimpel, nggak simple sih, tapi kesannya simple kan, which is kalau lo narik gas, itu respon motornya kayak gimana. Itu tuh susah banget karena lo harus nyari throttle yang enak dulu. Karena throttle motor listrik kan kadang kayak kosong gitu kan pas lo tarik, nggak ngelawan. Tiba-tiba bang gitu. Kita nyari throttle yang agak berat. Walaupun kadang-kadang yang dibilang kok berat banget ya gitu. Tapi feel-nya biar enak emang harus kayak gitu. Throttle-nya dicocokin sama control unitnya, sama dinamonya, sama baterainya. Itu semuanya harus in sync. Gitu kan, mappingnya harus di-align, bukaan throttle sekian persen, itu kita ngeluarin arus sekian ampere dari baterai, kita tes yang beda-beda konfigurasinya, cobain enak nggak, Jadi that process is what took a while.
Wow.
Gitu.
Dan hal-hal sekecil apapun tuh perubahannya bisa fundamental berarti.
Banget. Jadi masalahnya otomotif tuh every little change you make to the product tuh harus di-testing ulang.
Ya.
Ya kan, karena you have no room for error kalau udah keluar produknya. Beda sama software.
Ini yang lo kangenin.
lumayan. Gue kangen sih kadang-kadang kalau ada dulu ada problem di backendnya Gojek. Ya udah kita bikin bug fix, kita deploy, benar.
Gitu.
Ya,
Tinggal announce aja jam 11 sampai jam 12 gak bisa dipakai ya guys gitu kan. Kalau ini motor udah keluar ke sana standarnya hilang satu kayak waduh harus repot balikin gitu-gitu kan. So
Benar.
yeah, it makes total sense. Dude, I've been listening to your story and I can already think of hundreds of risks of starting this gitu.
Yep.
And so my question is now that it's out there gitu. What was the biggest, I guess, biggest thing that was challenging you every single day gitu? What was the biggest risk for you apparently menjalankan ini semua gitu?
Setelah launching,
Setelah launching gitu. Ketika lo melihat ke 3 years ago gitu.
Right.
What is it?
jadi memang kan we spent 3 years developing the product. Tapi memang otomotif tuh yang agak bedanya adalah kalau software lo cepet validasi marketnya. Ya kan, karena lo bisa bikin MVP, lo launch, lo lihat orang-orang suka nggak?
Suka apa nggak?
Ya kan, kalau nggak suka tinggal diganti, coba lagi, gitu kan, coba terus sampai dapet. Nah, otomotif nggak bisa gitu, karena untuk bikin MVP-nya aja, you need 3 years. Karena nggak ada yang, lo nggak bisa kan launching motor yang belum di-testing semuanya, karena bahaya.
Betul.
Dan secara regulasi juga tidak boleh. Gitu. Jadi setelah 3 tahun kita, setelah launching kita baru bisa lihat marketnya gimana. Do they like our product? Do they buy our product? Jadi ya pasti sebenarnya deg-degannya di situ ya.
Berarti what you're saying to me adalah masa resikonya dan deg-degannya itu belum selesai.
Oh, belum selesai, belum. Kalau kemarin mungkin 3 tahun lalu deg-degannya, wah motornya jadi on time nggak nih? Gitu kan? Kita bisa nggak kena target spek sama harga sama performance kita? Jadi banyak di R&D lah. Nah sekarang istilahnya tongkatnya udah estafet nih ke tim yang produksi sama jualan.
Sales dan so on.
Sales dan manufacturing gitu.
Wow. What's the biggest hiccup right now?
Kita masih mesti naikin rate production kita di pabrik.
Well, because there's too many orders with it.
Yeah, we have more orders than what we can currently make.
Really? That must feel so effing good.
No.
It does dong, berarti the many orders. Well, iya sih, it's not good. Kayak orang-orang pasti komplain kayak mana nih motor gue. Cuman for business wise, that's good.
Yeah, I think of course it's better to have the problem on the supply side daripada udah bikin banyak motor terus susah
Nggak ada yang mau
jualannya.
beli, ya.
Benar, tapi ya it's still a problem karena orang mau beli kan jadinya sekarang kita ada inden 1-2 bulan gitu. Tapi we're working on it. Ini top priority kita semua dan gue tiap hari kepikiran.
What are the comments Dati from people so far? Komennya apa aja?
Tapi jujur so far kita sih excited banget karena komennya sih consistently positive ya dari yang udah nyobain motornya. Kita juga kemarin sempet touring bareng banyak jurnalis ke Sentul, ke kilometer 0.
Wow, that's amazing.
Ya, kalau nyari di YouTube review Maka Cavalry gitu, itu banyak yang keluar.
Banyak yang
ya,
keluar
review
di sana.
jujur lah.
Wow. Dutanya adalah duta Ceylon 7.
Benar.
How did you come up with that?
Jujur itu something yang waktu awal banget sebenarnya kita nggak ada plan. Jadi ya bahkan sebenarnya awalnya kita nggak ngeplan ada BA.
Brand ambassador.
Cuman somehow sebelum launching the stars align aja gitu. Kayak tiba-tiba ketemu Mas Duta. Terus kayaknya cocok ya secara personality, secara memang dia anak motor juga. Terus sempat main ke pabrik kita, ngobrol sama tim production kita, ya yang ngerokok bareng gitu, kayak
nongkrong aja.
Nongkrong aja ya, ngerasa dapet lah vibe-nya.
Wow. So that's the story. Oh, I wanna talk about leadership gitu. Gue merasa di negara ini pada situasi sekarang gitu sulit sekali untuk melihat sosok pemimpin yang bisa kita lihat mau dalam sisi pemerintah ataupun keseharian gitu. kita mundur misalnya ke era gue kecil gitu, ketika ditanya idola lo siapa gitu, dengan mudah gue bisa nyebut 5 pemain bola misalnya gitu. Salah satu misalnya Ronaldinho atau apa gitu, dan kita bukan hanya dengan cara mereka main dan you know how they perform, tapi lebih kayak cerita mereka seperti ini gitu. Kita bisa tahu gitu, we dig deeper. We are lack of I guess people that we bisa dibilang sosok mentor. We lack mentorship gitu. Who was your mentor from the start to become a good leader and lead a whole company when you first led a team as well gitu? Well, and why that person gitu?
I think it's kind of hard to identify a single person, right?
Yeah.
I think every human is the result of. All of us are the results of our interactions with other humans. Gitu,
That's
kan?
right. Compilation of
Compilation of different advice, different mentors. Dan I think salah satu benefit dari being in Gojek at the time adalah memang kita dapat exposure ke banyak banget orang dengan cara pikir yang beda-beda. Dan kita bisa belajar dari mereka semua gitu. Obviously Nadim helped me a lot throughout my journey. He still helps me a lot. Dan banyak teman-teman lain juga lah di Gojek. Tapi I think it's interesting that you asked that karena actually at least in my family, I think I'm the first one to start a business.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
The rest of them are professionals berarti.
yeah. So my dad worked for the government. My uncles juga sebenarnya kebanyakan kerja buat pemerintah sih, PNS atau BUMN gitu. Yeah, so it's also kind of a new thing for.
What is it about leadership that got you? Shit, I wish I was still a professional. Are there moments like that?
Of course. I think only after you don't have a boss do you realize that actually kadang-kadang enak juga ya punya bos, bisa nyalain bos gua.
Yeah, that's true.
Sekarang gue mau nyalain siapa?
Yeah.
Ya kan, jadi I think it's about taking responsibility for everything. Karena ujung-ujungnya ya apapun yang terjadi, walaupun itu bukan salah lo, it's your responsibility as the leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think not all people in a leadership role get that.
Yeah. And it takes huge skills as well untuk meyakini orang-orang percaya dengan visi misi lo.
Banget.
Percaya dengan apa yang lo lakukan gitu.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different story when the person that you're convincing is your friend.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And a bunch of them are your friends gitu, are your colleagues gitu.
Yeah.
How did you manage to do that though?
It's very interesting. Jadi, as I told you, my co-founder and I were high school friends. Gian, our COO, who runs our factory, is also went to the same high school as we did. Okay. Jadi memang kita kenal udah lama lah. Dan pasti kan awal-awal orang suka bilang awkward nggak sih kerja sama temen? Ya, dan mungkin awal-awal emang sempat awkward ya. Cuman itu udah kejadiannya dari 2015. Jadi kita udah banyak latihan di Gojek, being friends and working together professionally. Jadi waktu kita decide untuk bikin Maka bareng-bareng, malah exciting sih dulu karena ngerasa kita waktu di Gojek awal satu tim, terus kita agak nyebar ya karena Gojeknya tambah gede, we were doing different things. Terus kita bisa ada proyek baru nih buat kita kerjain bareng, gitu.
So now it's that part's gone. There's nothing bad that could possibly happen gitu.
Something bad can always happen.
But so do you recommend building a business with your friend?
I think
with a friend, sorry.
I think it depends on your relationship with with the friend you're thinking of doing it with, right? You do need to have a very deep trust-based relationship.
That's right.
Jadi memang ya jujur kayak ya gue sama Arif juga ya suka berantem juga. Kita suka beda opini karena kadang-kadang kita pribadi yang cukup berbeda lah. The way we see things is often different, but ya sebenarnya kayak it's like being in a marriage, right?
Of course.
Right? My wife and I, it's the same dynamic, but the question is, can you learn how to have conflicts in a healthy way?
That's right.
Because that's the only way you can get better.
That's right. Yeah. And now thankfully I only deal with one wife. You're dealing with a bunch of employees and a bunch of customers. And I mean, I can't imagine selling out goods that is used daily. I can think of making a product and like use it once or twice, and then that's it. Gitu.
Right.
this is two-wheeler EV. That's a whole different story.
Yep.
Now, I want to talk about the environment itself gitu.
Sure.
Gue penasaran dukungan negara ini terhadap two-wheeler EVs seperti apa? Karena I see a lot kalau di kendaraan roda 4. Gue rasa dukungannya sudah jelas gitu. Maksudnya ada subsidi dan I mean ganjil genap gitu. Kendaraan roda 2 EV, what does that look like?
Ya. I think sebenarnya pemerintah in general consistently supportive sih sama kendaraan listrik gitu kan. At least sejak dari awal kita mulai company ini juga memang buat mobil sama motor kebijakannya beda waktu itu subsidinya kan.
Betul.
Kalau mobil dari awal memang PPN ditanggung pemerintah. Kalau yang motor itu dulu subsidinya direct cash.
Ya.
Jadi dapat
Cashback.
Ya cashback lah. Jadi ada pemerintah ngasih cash ke buyer gitu.
Which is weird.
I mean, it shows that they're serious about supporting it.
Yes, sih.
Karena ultimately it's in their own interest juga. Karena we spend so much money di subsidi BBM.
Betul.
Ya kan. Jadi kan harapannya
Here's extra cash gitu misalnya.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Harapannya if you can get more people on EVs, kita juga berkurang pengeluarannya di subsidi BBM. Gitu. Cuman mungkin untuk motor specifically yang challenging adalah subsidinya kan berubah nih bentuknya. Jadi yang tahun kemarin bentuknya yang kayak subsidi itu, tahun ini sepertinya akan berubah bentuknya. Tapi karena mungkin lagi banyak priority dan hal yang dilakukan juga sama, kan ada pemerintah baru juga masuk ya. Ya jadi
You want to say it or do you want me to say it gitu? Ya mungkin makan gizi ya kan lebih penting mungkin saat ini gitu. Maybe. Okay. Maybe. Go ahead, please continue.
Ya, jadi I think what the whole industry is waiting for is just clarity, right? Soal subsidi motor listrik ini, karena pada akhirnya, of course kita semua juga tidak mau subsidi yang nggak sustainable, gitu kan? Karena if you build a big industry tapi driven by subsidies, terus nanti subsidinya hilang, itu efeknya lebih bahaya lagi. Tapi yang dibutuhkan oleh consumer adalah kepastian.
Betul.
Gitu, karena kalau misalnya kalau jelas tidak atau jelas iya, orang yang mau beli ya udah beli aja.
Yeah.
Tapi kalau misalnya akan ada, kita lagi bikin, nanti kita announce ya, insya Allah segera, itu kan bikin orang jadi kalau sekarang beli, berarti kalau gitu kalau beli sekarang rugi dong, mendingan gue nunggu dikit lagi nih sampai diumumin.
Dapat subsidi ya.
Gitu. Jadi kalau kita sih selalu aspirasinya adalah supaya cepat ada kepastian.
Yeah.
Dengan kepastian itu bisa ada, bisa tidak ada. Jujur at this point sebenarnya kita nggak masalah gitu. Kalau
apa yang bisa mempercepat kepastian itu? Demand.
Itu agak chicken and egg ya, trikinya ya. Karena in a way kan demand, justru tujuannya subsidi ini untuk membangun demand.
Takutnya kalau malah banyak demand, dia malah nggak ada subsidi itu jadi.
Nah bisa jadi, nggak tahu juga. Of course kita sih senang kalau banyak demand.
Okay, so it's a waiting game ketika bicara environment EV di Indonesia for two wheelers.
Yes, jadi semuanya lagi nunggu. Dan I think again kita semua support whatever the government decides. We just hope that they decide soon. Gitu.
Got it. Okay. Trump's tariff.
Yes.
Here's an interesting one. I mean, I know for a fact bahwa tadi yang dibilang pembangunannya di China, terus taruh di sini white label. It's a great business model, especially for China itself. Gitu. It's a new way of giving out new opportunities for other countries gitu.
Yeah.
Of course, on the long run, that's also one revenue stream for Maka gitu. That's an opportunity yang you cannot deny.
Yeah.
Has this decision of Trump's tariff affected your company? That's my first question, which is probably too soon to answer. Cuman, how has it changed your business plan in the next few years?
Right. So I think it does affect us indirectly.
Oke.
Karena nilai tukar rupiah jadi berubah. So this is something I think everyone has to deal with, right?
And it's too late to change the price.
Exactly. But fortunately, our funding is in USD, so we can hedge. But our revenue is in rupiah. Tapi OPEX kita juga rupiah. So hopefully it evens out. Tapi itu something yang semuanya struggle with. Kalau ngomongin efek tarif, itu pasti ada dua sisi ya. Pertama dari kita bisa nggak ekspor ke US. Terus kedua dari kan salah satu impact-nya adalah our government juga jadi berubah view-nya tentang TKDN dan quota impor. Ya kan. Nah kalau soal yang pertama soal ekspor ini definitely something yang we're looking at. Tapi mungkin kalau untuk motor US is maybe not one of the main markets.
Betul.
Gitu. Jadi in that sense kita tidak directly affected. But export itu definitely something yang kita pingin fokusin sih in the long term. Kenapa? Karena kalau lihat contoh negara yang berhasil industrialisasi ya, Jepang, South Korea, China, mereka semua bisa seperti itu karena banyak dorong ekspor.
Betul.
Ya kan, jadi ekspor, doing exports pushes the producers in the country to make export quality products.
That's right.
Ya kan, jadi itu sih something yang kita sangat pingin kerjain. Kalau kita tujuannya pingin bikin swasembada teknologi otomotif di Indonesia, kita harus bisa ekspor eventually. Tapi for now kita fokus di market Indonesia dulu. Nah, yang kedua adalah soal impact-nya di competition. Ya kan, dengan adanya TKDN dibikin lebih longgar atau diganti dengan insentif, gimana nih kalau lebih banyak lagi kompetitor yang masuk ke Indonesia, terutama dari China, which is the world's largest market for two-wheeler EVs.
That's right.
Ya kan.
Sorry, the world's largest?
The world's largest market for two-wheelers.
Really?
Ya, jadi nomor 1 China, nomor 2 India, nomor 3 kita.
Wow.
Ya. Nah,
sorry. Before you answer, digunakan bukan untuk personal tapi kan? Kalau di China,
two-wheeler in general itu di dunia paling besar marketnya di China, karena orangnya banyak.
Betul. Cuman maksudnya tidak digunakan untuk keseharian tadi yang you explain. Berarti hanya dari poin A ke poin B, that's it.
Use case-nya beda.
Oh iya betul.
Ya, tapi jumlahnya banyak.
Ya. Dan mungkin food deliveries and everything itu ada di sana. Oke. Continue.
Ya, walaupun food deliveries-nya pun beda speknya sama kita karena ya jalanannya juga mulus, terus speed-nya konstan.
Iya, dan mereka for what I know they have their own terowongan gitu-gitu ya. Okay, that's amazing. Okay. Anyway, please continue.
Jadi the only bigger markets for two-wheelers are China and India. India's EV penetration-nya a few years ahead of us. Akhirnya lumayan oke kalau kita. Ya, jadi India tuh kemarin abis ngobrol sama teman dari Delhi, dia bilang di sana udah 25% dari penjualan motor baru udah listrik gitu kan. Jadi udah tinggi banget. Kita tahun kemarin 1% kurang lebih.
Wow.
Ya, mobil at least 5%.
Jadi I can see that. Kalau mobil kita masih banyak yang plat biru.
Benar. Jadi opportunity itu gede banget sebenarnya. Kalau kita bisa at least motor sebagus mobil aja penetrasinya. Apalagi kalau motor bisa sama kayak India. Itu
25%.
Itu market opportunity yang gede banget, dan opportunity untuk Indonesia bisa lebih maju di value chain lah istilahnya gitu kan.
But I'm assuming you're not ready for sudden 25%.
Well, we need to
give us some time.
We need to increase our production capacity, but I think it would be good for everyone, gitu kan? Karena it creates jobs, especially if we can learn how to do our own R&D, gitu kan? Jadi we capture all of the value add di sini di Indonesia, instead of jualan produk yang di-develop sama prinsipal di luar.
Ya
kan?
Betul.
Nah, oke, tapi itu tentang India sama itu perbandingan sama India ya. Jadi kalau China semuanya udah listrik. Karena the government melarang motor bensin.
No, really?
Yeah.
That's the regulation.
That's how they did it. Ya. Kecuali
So how do they stabilize petrol?
Sekarang even mobil pun udah mostly listrik sih di sana.
Wow.
Ya ini gue tiap kesana selalu amazed sih. Ya jujur cepat banget perkembangannya. And I'm hoping that kalau Indonesia bisa fokus ngembangin sektor manufakturnya, ya harapannya kita bisa seperti itu juga gitu kan. Gitu. Jadi soal ngebuka keran impor, of course yang paling mungkin ekspor ke sini China.
Ya.
Kalau India karena mereka masih fokus penetrate marketnya sendiri.
Setuju.
Karena di sana aja walaupun udah tinggi masih 25%.
Ya.
Kalau China emang udah listrik semua. Nah, mereka takut nggak sama produk China yang bakal datang gitu kan? Banyak yang nanya gitu ke kita. Dan jawaban kita adalah sebenarnya mereka udah datang. They've already been here for the past few years.
Tapi namanya aja beda.
Ada yang namanya beda, bahkan ada juga yang atas brandnya sendiri. Jadi brand-brand two-wheeler EV terbesar di China tuh sudah ada juga kok di sini.
I'm curious, man.
Ya,
You're not gonna name it, are you?
No, but it's easy to find out. They're already here. Tapi kenyataannya tahun kemarin penetrasi two-wheel EV masih 1%.
Yeah.
Gitu kan? Jadi whatever everyone is already doing in the market sekarang tuh masih belum berhasil untuk crack demand-nya.
What? I don't understand tapi why?
We think it's a product issue. Karena
Really?
yes, karena gini sih, kalau two wheeler ya, motor buat orang Indonesia itu lumayan segalanya lah, gitu kan. Kita pakai motor tuh buat sehari-hari,
You're right.
buat kerja, buat banyak rumah tangga itu barang termahal yang mereka punya. Gitu.
Makanya mereka parkirnya di dalam rumah.
Parkirnya di ruang tamu,
Iya.
ya kan. Mungkin rumah ngontrak tapi motor beli cicilan,
Iya.
gitu kan. Jadi motor tuh penting banget. Kalau keluarga Indonesia decide untuk invest beli motor, standarnya juga tinggi gitu kan. Mereka pingin motor yang
Muat 4 orang, bisa dipakai ke sembarang. Iya, I mean, I know it's illegal, cuma itu berarti
It happens.
speknya.
ya it happens. Dan mereka pasti akan membandingkan dengan motor bensin yang sudah mereka pakai. Nah,
Yeah.
pertanyaannya kan apa sih alasannya orang bakal pindah ke listrik? Jujur market kita belum sampai titik di mana orang akan make that decision karena it's the moral thing to do, gitu kan? Misalnya,
enggak lah, nggak mungkin lah.
nggak mungkin kalau
Mungkin lah.
ya
You'll save more trees kayak.
gimana gitu kan?
Give me rendang, I'll do it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
ya, belum nyampe sana marketnya. Jadi kayak I have friends in Europe, mereka bilang, oh ya gue ganti listrik karena it's the right thing to do. Wow, mulia sekali gitu kan. Kalau di kita belum.
Belum.
Ya, jadi the only reason orang akan pindah is to save money. Ya kan, dan harga bensin naik terus, sebenarnya pindah ke listrik pasti save money. Semua motor listrik save money. Tapi yang susah untuk dicari adalah motor listrik yang save money, tapi performance-nya sama kayak motor bensin, sama atau bahkan lebih baik. Karena motor kita yang bisa diadu lah sebenarnya, motor listrik itu torsinya lebih besar di RPM rendah. Jadi kalau di perempatan sama-sama diam terus digas, yang motor listrik harusnya lebih cepat.
Iya, tapi kan di Indonesia bukan itu, tapi suaranya yang penting berisik.
Nah, itu
juga
beda lagi tuh, ya.
Do you have any solution for that? Sound wise.
Ya, jadi if you look at the regulation, sebenarnya yang diatur kan suara maksimum. Suara minimum sebetulnya tidak diatur.
tapi look, I've been driving my electric car for 3 years.
Ya.
Every single day whenever I drive it, pasti ada satu orang yang nggak denger. Dan harus diklakson tipis untuk mereka geser.
Ya.
Itu masalah tahu.
Lumayan sih dengan kondisi sekarang ya, di mana ada yang bunyi, ada yang nggak bunyi.
Betul.
Orang kan jadi bingung, they don't know what to expect gitu.
Iya.
Ya.
So is there a solution for that? Like bisa ada regulasi nggak sih kayak minimum berapa gitu?
Jadi I think there's only two way, cuma ada dua hal yang bisa terjadi. Pertama, semua motor dibikin harus ada bunyinya.
Betul.
Itu bisa dengan motor listrik, jadi harus bikin bunyi pakai speaker gitu misalnya.
Iya.
Itu bisa dilakukan. Kita pernah mencobanya. Tapi, agak gimana ya? Agak.
Suara mesin.
Iya, bisa. Bahkan ada yang bisa di custom suaranya kan.
Lucu banget sih motor listrik tapi suaranya 2 tak.
Bisa, ya bisa aja. Tapi ya tetap suaranya datang dari speaker. Dan peletakan speakernya juga penting. Kalau suaranya dari depan kan aneh ya, kok suara knalpot tapi dari depan gitu. Of course ini bisa di fine tune.
Menurut gue, lo harus ada satu tombol, nama tombolnya permisi. Jadi kayak misi itu pas menurut gue. Jadi nggak klakson tapi permisi, itu bisa tuh.
Bisa. Ya ada klakson. Paling yang mendekati itu kita punya tombol hazard. Jadi kalau pencet itu ada tek ya.
Terus solusi kedua,
solusi kedua adalah semuanya jadi listrik. Jadi nggak ada suaranya. Orang-orang jadi biasa. Ini yang terjadi di China by the way.
Jadi, so they know who's coming.
Enggak, di China memang semuanya udah gak ada bunyinya two wheeler. Jadi lama-lama orang biasa.
Terbiasa dengan kayak suara tipis aja mereka tahu it's actually coming.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
Benar.
interesting.
Gitu.
That's interesting. Okay, my last question would be about preparing for the future.
Yes.
Karena it's just the start gitu. EV production, especially.
Yeah.
EV consumer owning EV, I think that's dari dulu udah ada sebetulnya gitu. Tapi production wise, it's brand new, especially Maka being the start of it. First thing first, congratulations for doing it, and I know it's such a job to do. But the future of it, it's pretty scary. As you said, China can come in anytime. Terus the demand is still, we're still working on it. Production wise, you're still working on it. So what's actually the vision of it for the next 5 years, and how do you see it coming, or how can it be in a better place for you? Gitu?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah. As I mentioned, our vision is untuk menjadi ujung tombak swasembada teknologi otomotif. Nah,
Ya, mulia sekali.
lumayan karena ya menurut kita, soalnya gini sih, mungkin personally waktu gue cabut dari Gojek untuk ngerjain ini, jujur sebenarnya nothing tulus juga gitu kan.
Ya.
Waktu kan cabut dari Gojek sebelum IPO, lumayan lah jadi bisa jual saham yang udah didapat, ya kan. Jadi in a way ya udah, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it aja gitu kan. Of course kita semua pingin make money, tapi I choose to do this karena ya memang I feel it's my calling gitu kan. Emang gue pingin kita manufacturingnya lebih maju dan orang Indonesia bisa bikin produk otomotif world class hasil desain sendiri. Gitu kan. No one has ever been able to successfully do that before. Dan kita pingin kita pingin inspire more people to do it juga. Obviously, we have a long way to go. Kita baru launching, we still have issues we need to sort out on the production side. Tapi dari feedback yang kita udah dapat dari market so far, kita sangat grateful karena pada suka sama produknya. Gitu kan. Dan menurut gue sih itu yang paling penting. Jadi harapannya untuk 5 tahun ke depan, gimana caranya kita bisa memperbanyak produk kita yang ada di jalanan, karena ya to achieve our vision ya kita memang harus punya scale gitu kan. Dan gimana caranya kita bisa terus berinovasi untuk bikin model-model selanjutnya. That's why we have an in-house R&D team. Gitu kan. Jadi memang butuh 3 tahun, tapi 3 tahunnya bisa overlapping cycle-nya kan. Gitu. So the team is already starting to think of the next model. Yeah, of course we can't release anything yet, but automotive is you need to think about it long term. The time horizons are very different dibanding something like software misalnya.
Yeah.
Gitu.
I want to give you advices, man. I mean, coming from a guy that uses motorcycle for over 10 years, I think di jiwa kita nih, bebek tuh akan selalu ada di hati sebetulnya.
Lumayan.
Bentukan bebek, terus the simplicity of it gitu.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something you can do. You know?
Could be. Sampai 3 bulan lalu juga gue masih pakai motor bebek tiap hari.
Apa lo pakai karisma kan? Jadi kayak, it's so weird untuk lo ngeliat pakai bebek tua gitu. But now Baka's there, and I can't wait to have a look this coming weekend to try it out. So
absolutely,
I'll give you a ring, but until then, I wish you all the success and luck to all the team. So thank you for doing this. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just want to say that I'm just so grateful I get to do what I'm doing now. Because it's been a dream since high school. As I mentioned, my co-founder and I, kita dulu suka bercanda, ya suatu hari nanti kita bikin pabrik ya bro, gitu kan. Dan as challenging as it is, as tough as it gets sometimes, I get to work on building my dream, and I think that's a privilege in life.
And I hope you guys, every one of you that's watching this, get to feel that way.
Absolutely.
Dito, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Kalau gitu say yes, Lawrence.
Dito.
And I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.